Right now at 11 a.m., an honor befitting her legacy. Ruth Bader Ginsburg becomes the first woman and Jewish person to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol. We're there live. Breonna Taylor's family speaking out for the first time since the grand jury's decision in her death investigation. Protests over that decision turned dangerous in Hollywood as two drivers plow through protesters. You see the reaction there. Hello and welcome to everyone watching. We're live on ABC7, ABC7.com, and streaming wherever you are on the ABC7 Los Angeles app. I'm Philip Palmer. Giovanna has the day off. In commemoration of her extraordinary life and career, the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has become the first woman in American history to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze joins us now live from the Capitol with more on the ceremony. Elizabeth? Good afternoon. I'm Philip Palmer, and we have breaking news in Hollywood. We showed you a bit of this earlier. Let's go to Scott Reif. He's in Air 7 HD. A peace march is underway connected to the death of George Floyd. Scott?
Yeah, Philip, and boy, within the last half hour or so, the crowd is...
Just because these are peaceful protests doesn't mean they're not emotional protests. They are very emotional, and people are angry. You heard it in Senator Harris's voice. She's upset over years and years of seeing the same thing over and over as a community and as a country. And it was inspiring for me to hear some of the laws that she is proposing, the changing of language that can actually seem like will make a systemic difference, which is what most of these protesters are demanding and they're speaking out about.
Right, and there is a lot of anger out there, Philip, but also so many acts of kindness I'm seeing on Twitter.
If you look at the trees and just the beautiful shot there of the people walking in West Hollywood, it is spring. So let us hope it is springtime in America, with so many voices being raised. So many efforts at just making a difference. People who we saw yesterday, a young man who'd never been to a protest. He had not been because he was scared of what he thought they might be, but was inspired after going and seeing what it is.
Our Philip Palmer's live on the scene with a very fluid situation. Philip?
Well, guys, this is changing as we speak. Let me show you what's going on because it's 6 o'clock and they're about to shut this intersection down. Victory and Van Nuys. You see about 3 people in the intersection. They've been there. They are waiting. We just saw a lot of people clear out. We see some kids running across the street. Let's show you what happened earlier today while I show you the live pictures.
We're going to check back to Van Nuys. That was a place where some looting was taking place, another protest. Philip Palmer's been there on the ground. Philip?
Well, we are on one of the side streets here, Van Nuys and Hamlin. It's near a jewelry store, and I'm trying to get a good shot, but the closer I get, police tell us to stop coming closer. There are a couple of people here with us, but you can see just off in the distance, there are 4 people on the ground, and now it looks like a 5th is going to the ground as well. It looks as if these guys are about to be arrested. We don't know necessarily what happened. That's fireworks. We've had a couple of moments where there's fireworks that have gone off as well.
Electric cars are everywhere. Before long, it will be trucks. Governor Newsom on July 13th signed a multi-state memorandum to have all medium and heavy-duty trucks sold in California be zero emission by 2050. Our freeways will be filled with electric vehicles of all shapes and sizes. But what of our skies?
We'll look back on this, in my opinion, and wonder why it took so long.
In a hangar just outside of Denver, Colorado, sits what might be the future of aviation. We traveled there back in February, before masks were required due to COVID, to see the 2-seat all-electric E-Flyer 2, a completely new airplane design tip to tail. It's the first ever FAA Part 23 type certificate applicant, and according to Bye Aerospace CEO and founder George Bye, the only all-electric concept plane to have started the FAA certification process.
That means it can be used for hire, for commercial use. And of course, we want to focus this first product as a 2-seat training airplane on the urgent need for new pilots.
Pre-COVID, demand for air travel was growing so rapidly that 800,000 new pilots will be needed over the next 20 years, according to projections by Boeing. The overwhelming majority of student pilots will drop out because of the cost of learning to fly.
The cost of being a doctor or an attorney or an airline pilot is about the same.
But using an all-electric trainer like the E-Flyer 2 would be 5 times less expensive for a student pilot than a legacy aircraft with a combustion engine.
What do you have to learn differently as a pilot of this plane that you would have to?
I love that question. You don't have to learn as much. An internal combustion engine there's a lot of levers to manage. There's a lot to control an internal combustion engine. An electric motor is just electrons and torque.
To get any new plane certified by the FAA is a complicated process, and with a combustion engine, there are already established performance and safety standards that must be met.
They're starting completely from scratch with engines that are designed for aircraft that are electrics, or motors that are in electric aircraft are just not really known or understood well at this point by the FAA.
Yeah, the only big question is endurance. That's the thing. You know, you have to train pilots that you can't judge your trip by how far you can go. It's how long you can go, because there are a lot of variables that will shorten that up quite a bit.
The aerodynamic efficiency of the E-Flyer 2 is said to be twice that of a legacy plane, and after 25 test flights, 5 in the last 2 weeks, it's estimated the E-Flyer 2 has the ability to fly for almost 3 hours using 5 batteries. The advantage of an electric plane is not just about the exhaust or the expense, it's about the noise. If you live in one of 30 airports in Southern California that has private planes, instead of hearing that, you'll hear that, the Tesla of the sky.
And that propeller can just barely be heard on the ground. At 500 feet in the air, you cannot hear the airplane.
The COVID pandemic delayed the certification process by about 6 months, but the planes are back in the air for test flights, and there are already several hundred purchase deposit agreements in place for the E-Flyer 2, even though production is still likely 2 years away.
You see Teslas and other electric cars all over the road, and people are much more comfortable. They know that they can get them charged. They know they're not going to run out of battery when they're driving. All those things are kind of understood. I'm very excited about the idea of an electric airplane.
Very happy to get back up in the air. As a pilot and a company building airplanes, that's a big deal.
Philip Palmer, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Eyewitness News reporter Philip Palmer shows us how even at 100 years old, Harold Reese is still helping to make beautiful music.
Harold Reese has made hundreds of stringed instruments over the years.
When it gets done, I want it to look right.
You'll often find him in a workspace he affectionately calls his fiddler's shop. It's a shop he also built behind his home in Loma Linda, filled with tools that, in his hands, create music.
I want to feel that I've done my best.
Another talent is his ability to draw. Evidence of that can be found on the back of one of his violins. Harold still has the first violin he ever made back in 1949 when he was 29. In March of this year, for his 100th birthday, he began working on his 100th violin.
I'm not quite as agile as I used to be.
Harold's a World War II Army veteran and the father of 3 sons. His wife of 69 years passed in 2017. He's worked in a mill, built homes, and sold books door to door. His has been a life of doing things.
If I can make stuff instead of buying it, I'll make it.
But he always had time for music. Even now, he still repairs instruments for local musicians. From 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., at least 5 days a week, he's in the fiddler's shop. He works surrounded by the tools of his trade, but usually only imagines the sounds to be made by his craftsmanship.
Mr. Reese is one of the best makers I know.
It's the rare occasion when someone like Lucille Taylor of the San Bernardino Symphony Orchestra plays for him with the viola he made for her.
Wow, that's great. I can listen to that a long while.
This centenarian is a friend of mine for so many years, and I'm so connected to him through the instrument Every time I play it, I think of him.
But for a man who at 100 years old never really retired from the work he loved, when each workday ends, it should surprise no one. His mind never really leaves his current project.
Well, I wondered how in the world I could get the thing done faster and better and more perfect.
Philip Palmer, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.